everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for being here. If you're new here, hi, I'm Eliza. I'm a disabled content creator who creates content on YouTube every 2 weeks all about disability awareness, LGBTQ+ positivity and lifestyle things. And today we're going to be comparing the good disability representation in the media, in my opinion, versus the bad disability representation in the media, again, in my opinion. Going to be covering everything from films, musical, TV shows, so let's jump right into it. Also, obviously, there might be spoilers for certain films and shows, so you've been warned. We're going to start off with some bad representation, because why not? I know that's why most of you are here, let's be honest. We're going to start off with Artie from Glee, who is a wheelchair user in the show, but isn't a wheelchair user in real life. By the way, if you didn't know, I'm also a wheelchair user. Now, this is already an issue because wheelchair user characters should be played by real life wheelchair users. But before you all run into the comments and start typing, there aren't that many wheelchair users, this is a lie. There are loads of wheelchair users who are also actors, but there is a real barrier into working in acting due to the lack of accessibility that people put in place. The good news is that you can change accessibility to make it better, and if we do that, we'll see more wheelchair users in films and the media. Actual wheelchair users, not fake wheelchair users. And the more of us will go into acting. But you can't change a disabled person and make them less disabled, but accessibility is changeable. So the first note on Artie in Glee is the fact that he is played and written, at least to my knowledge, by somebody who isn't a wheelchair user. So that's already not good to begin with. As I said, disability is not a costume. But also, I think that the character overall is just a bit icky to me, often focusing on how much he hates being disabled. We're going to watch a small clip and then discuss it afterwards.
You hit your head pretty hard. I'm gonna go call your mother. Lay down till she gets here.
Want me to help you get up on the cot?
No. I don't want anybody to help me with anything. I'm tired of being so helpless. I'm tired of everybody pitying me, and I'm tired of being in this damn chair.
Anyone could have fallen on the ice, all right?
Yeah, but they could have gotten back up. Instead of laying there screaming for help until some freshman girls showed up.
Dude, don't bite my head off. But you need some rest, so I'm gonna help you out, all right?
I wish I was never in that dumb chair.
I know, buddy. I know.
You can see in this clip that Artie talks about how much he has dreamed of getting out of his wheelchair and how much he hates his, quote, stupid chair. Now, if you're a wheelchair user who feels this way about their own body and their own experiences, that is very valid. Being disabled can be really, really hard, and it can take time to accept our bodies and parts of us that maybe aren't working anymore or working the way that they used to. However, it feels uncomfortable to me that this character isn't a wheelchair user, and as far as I'm aware, isn't written by a wheelchair user either. And it just leans into this idea and stereotype that all disabled people just hate their wheelchairs and hate their lives, when the truth is that many of us just want places to be accessible. The reality for me is that I will always use a wheelchair now. There is no cure for my disability, so I've just had to learn to accept that part of me. And I don't wish that I didn't need a chair, but I do wish that people focused on making areas more accessible, and it just leans into this very harmful stereotype that we just absolutely hate our bodies. We wish that we didn't have a wheelchair. We wish that this wasn't the way it was, when actually in reality, for many of us, we kind of just wish that you put a ramp down. Anyway, let's watch another clip from Artie in Glee.
Wait. I need to tell you something. I went to the doctor yesterday, and he started me on all the therapies that you researched for me.
Really?
Guess what? They're working.
Oh my God. Artie, you can walk.
I spent so many years dreaming about what I'd do if I could get up out of the chair. And now that I can, all I want to do is dance.
Here's another clip of Artie walking, talking about how he's tried to get therapy for walking and he's dreamed of walking his whole life, and he's finally, quote, out of his chair, which leans into this idea that all wheelchair users want to be able to do is walk, which often isn't the case at all. Most of us just really want the world to be accessible, as I said before. Also, fun fact, lots of wheelchair users can actually already walk. Yeah, I know, shock, horror, but many wheelchair users can actually walk short distances, but we still need our chairs. Some people may only be able to walk for very short periods of time and then need our chairs for longer distances, and so at the very least, Glee could have actually cast a real life wheelchair user for this role. Whenever I talk about these things, people will often say, oh, the reason that they didn't hire a wheelchair user is because he walks in this, or this happens, or this character gets out of their chair or whatever, when in reality there are loads and loads of wheelchair users. It's around 1/3 of wheelchair users that actually can stand up and get out of our chairs. Some people only use their wheelchairs part-time, some people only use them when they leave their house, some people only use them on bad days. There are real life wheelchair users that exist that can walk. And no, we're not faking. Also, side note here, Artie hating his disability is not me saying that every single bit of media that talks about disability should shy away from how difficult being disabled can be. It can be difficult because of the barriers that society puts in place, such as things like lack of access, healthcare, and these things can be even harder if you're an intersectional wheelchair user. But it can also just be hard because being unwell is just hard, and it is okay to acknowledge that. We can also do that without just assuming that every single disabled person wants to be rid of their disability or hates every aspect of their life, because that's not true either. Disability is neutral, neither good or bad, and that's how it should be shown in the media. But at the moment, the majority of the representation that we're getting is just bad and negative, without the flip side of disabled joy, which truly does exist. I also wanted to say that the actor has actually come out and recognised that this wasn't the best character for them to be playing, and has admitted that it was the wrong part to play. I actually really appreciate that, and also I think it also isn't really the actor's fault. Like, they just want to do a job, unless they're a large enough actor to be able to turn down the role. In reality, lots of actors need the work to be able to pay for food and water and all the things that we have to pay for as humans. And my issue actually lies with the casting directors, writers, and the big production companies who actually have the power to change things and the power to make filming sets more accessible, yet choose not to. That is on them, not the actors who are just trying to get their job done. So please don't think this is me saying, go get them. It isn't. I'm just pointing out that there are issues with the role, but my main issue sits so much higher up, not with one singular actor. Okay, let's move on to some good disability representation, shall we? Let's chat about Nessa Rose in the new Wicked film. You will have seen that I've specified the film there. That's because the show version of Nessa is not very good in my opinion at all. If you'd like to watch a video where I dive into that one character on the stage play, then I will link it above. But I want to talk about the film specifically here because, oh my goodness, wasn't it well done. If you aren't aware, Nessa is Elphaba's sister, and she is a wheelchair user due to complications during her birth. And in the film, she is played by a real life wheelchair user, Marissa Bodie, and she's actually the first real life wheelchair user to ever play this part, even though it's been in theatre for over 20 years. And she has been influential in building out this character, and we have a really nice moment in the film that I really want to highlight.
She doesn't need your help.
Stop, I just need to find my room.
I'll bring you there myself.
They really do have a bond.
Stop! Let her go!
In this moment, Nessa, who has just arrived at university, and one of the teachers decides that she will just start pushing Nessa without her permission, and Nessa clearly says, no, stop. Unfortunately, as a wheelchair user myself, I'm often pushed without permission, and people would just decide that I need help. I think that just leans into this idea that many people see disabled people as like completely hopeless and useless, which isn't true at all. And Nessa clearly just wants to be treated like everyone else, and certainly doesn't want somebody just pushing her without asking. I really like that they have highlighted the importance of consent here. You wouldn't just go up to a stranger and pick them up and start moving them somewhere without their permission. At least I hope so. So don't do it to a wheelchair user. It's rude and can actually even be dangerous and cause injury. I also love the fact that Marissa Bodie is a real life wheelchair user and is the first wheelchair user to ever play the part of Nessa Rose, which, how has it been out in theatres for 20 years and they've not had one wheelchair user play this role? Bodie has spoken about how it was made sure that the set was wheelchair wheelchair accessible, and how she was involved in the editing of the nuances around the character to make it less problematic and also to create real disability representation. Oh, another thing on the whole, getting wheelchair users to play wheelchair roles. So often as disabled people, we get told all the time that we are faking being disabled, or we might face ableism such as not being able to get on the bus or train or getting a job, etc. Unlike an actor who isn't disabled, we can't just stop being disabled when the cameras turn off or decide to get out of our chairs one day just because we don't need our aids anymore. We face that ableism and discrimination every single day, and we aren't able to just stop being disabled whenever we want to. That's why I really love Marissa's casting. Having a real life wheelchair user play such a major role in such a famous film honestly just fills me with so much joy, and it just proves that wheelchair users can do this role, and if you make a set accessible, we can do it and we should be there, and if we are there, the character's going to be even better. Quick break here while I jump in to talk to you about Patreon. Patreon is a platform where you can directly support creators financially, and in return, you get loads of cool perks. I call mine the Radiant Rainbow Club, and you can get early access to YouTube videos, behind the scenes content, along with access to the Patreon chats and Discord, where you can meet like-minded people and chat about all sorts of things like sharks, which, by the way, are my absolute fave animals. And actually, I'm running a really cool offer at the moment that the first 60 members that sign up to my paid Patreon will be getting this lovely Sharky pin sent to them in the post. So if you'd like to join my Patreon, the Radiant Rainbow Club, I've put all the information in the description. Also, another side note, I currently have these lovely t-shirts for sale that are embroidered and say accessibility is beautiful with sunflowers around them. They come in sizes small to 5XL, and they're the perfect Christmas or birthday gift. So I've also put a link to those in the description as well. Okay, right, let's go back into comparing the different types of disability rep. Okay, so we just had a good version of disability rep. Let's move on to another bad version of disability rep with Me Before You. This is a film about someone who had an accident and became paralyzed from the neck down. This plot is played by a non-disabled actor. Once again, we've already spoken about how I feel about that in previous examples, but let's look at the first clip where we actually meet this character.
I'm Lou. Will.
My brain isn't paralyzed. Yet. Hello, Louisa Clark. I'm Will Trainer. You appear to have a problem with your skirt.
So straight away, he's pretending to have a disability that the character doesn't have to be funny, which isn't funny. Please don't pretend to be disabled for a joke. You will notice that a lot of jokes, disability is actually the punchline. And we really don't need to add to that by pretending to be disabled or making fun of people who actually live with disabilities that are like this. Content warning for the next part, we're going to be discussing unaliving and assisted unaliving. If that isn't something that you are comfortable with, I will put a timestamp on the screen now for you to jump to, or my lovely editor will. So, if you aren't aware, Me Before You is about a man who becomes paralyzed, and then his mum hires a carer for him, and him and the carer fall in love. By the way, I'm using unaliving due to the fact that algorithms will not let me use the actual word, but you know what I mean. After she has confessed her love for him, he still decides to go to Switzerland to go through assisted unaliving. And the main character, Will, basically unalives himself, leaves his carer / love interest with lots of money, hence why his name is Will to begin with, I guess. It's a story that leans heavily on pity, but let's watch a bit more of the clip.
This has been the best. You're glad you came, right?
Yes. I have to tell you something.
You know about Switzerland?
I can make you happy.
Well,
What?
I get that this could be a good life, but it's not my life. I loved my life. I really loved it.
You're not giving me a chance.
I don't want you to miss all the things that someone else could give you. I can't live like this.
Please, Will, please.
When we get back, I'm going to Switzerland.
I tore my heart out in front of you, and all you can say is no. Oh, I wish I had never met you.
You can see here that he doesn't feel that he's a good enough partner and leans into that stereotype that disabled people are burdens or in terrible relationships because they might need that bit of extra help. Once again, this is a story that is played by a non-disabled person and written, as far as I'm aware, by a non-disabled person. Disabled people are not burdens in relationships and that they can make amazing partners. Of course, as I said previously, if a disabled person feels this way about themselves, then that's completely valid. But this is a film that is written by non-disabled people, played by non-disabled people, and is for non-disabled people. To kind of just feel sad, and it just leans really heavily into that, and that feels icky. But let's watch another clip.
Can we strike a deal whereby you are very unchatty?
He just pushed me away, didn't want me here. You know, you can only help someone who actually wants to be helped.
Right, well, you better not move until I've cleaned that up, because I've got no idea what I'd do if you pop a tyre.
You can see here that Will is portrayed as being very bitter and pretty mean. The bitter disabled stereotype is something that we've seen for many, many years. You'll notice that a lot of villains that we have in the media are disabled or have a limb difference, such as Captain Hook or Voldemort, who has a facial difference. The list goes on. There is often this trope that we are mean, bitter, and evil because we're angry that we're disabled and we've been dealt the unfair hand. This stereotype is harmful because it reinforces the idea that disabled people hate their lives and that a disabled life is nothing to live by. Here's the line that you might not want to hear, but anyone can become disabled at any time. One of my fave disabled creators, Crutches and Spice, also says things like, the only thing standing between you and disability is luck and time. That's the truth, to be honest. Most people will become disabled at some point in their life, either by an accident or as they age. If we continue to force this idea that disabled people or disability is something awful or something to be scared of or something to avoid, one, it just makes people think that as they age, the worst thing in life could possibly happen to them and they could become disabled. Two, that their life would not be worth living when that happens. And the reality is, many disabled people just adapt and adjust and learn to live with it. And three, it also leans into this idea that we should be scared or negative towards disabled people because it's a bad thing, which doesn't help disabled people who are actually existing today. And it's also not true. As I said before, disability is just neutral. Me Before You actually ends with the character unaliving in Switzerland, with many disability activists saying that this was only done to add pity to the character and almost give it a quote sad ending. You may be aware that in the UK, we're currently in the process of potentially allowing legal unaliving. However, the bill that is being passed has been highlighted by many disabled activists as not having enough precautions in place for disabled people, often due to this stereotype that we hate living, which could mean that families may encourage disabled people or a disabled child to go through the legal route of unaliving forcefully. It's a nuanced topic though, because I also think that in certain situations, legal unaliving is needed. I've put some resources in the captions that go into this in much more detail from people that are much, much more educated on the topic than I am. So I really recommend reading up about it and becoming educated and forming your own opinion. However, it still stands that the film is uncomfortable to me, that someone who isn't a wheelchair user is writing this about a wheelchair user wanting to just off themselves because they hate their life so much. They can't be active anymore. They can't have the life that they wanted to lead. They feel that they can't be in a relationship. If this was a disabled person saying this, it would sit differently with me. I'd feel sad for them, but it would sit differently for me. But the fact that it's made by non-disabled people just makes me think that this is what some non-disabled people think that we feel like every day. It's simply not true, to the point that they even put it in a movie. And that sits uncomfortably with me. Well, that was a deep one, but let's move on to another positive disability representation, in my opinion. Quinny from Heartbreak High. Now, if you didn't know, on top of being a wheelchair user, I am also autistic, and Quinny is played by Chloe Hayden, who is also an autistic content creator and is on various different platforms. I really recommend that you go and follow her. I know that Chloe put a lot of work into making sure that Quinny is good representation for autistic people, because there are so many terrible examples out there, such as The Good Doctor or Atypical. If you would like a video on why those two characters sit really iffy with me, I'd be more than happy to do that. Just let me know down below. But Quinny for me just really shows what it's like to be autistic at school, and let's watch the clip now. Immediately loving the representation. We can see that Quinny likes animals, and when she leaves her house, she's wearing headphones, which is something that many autistic people rely on, because being outside for many autistic people can be overwhelming because it's noisy, bright, unpredictable. And this moment where we see birds also shows that many autistic people may notice small details when they're out and about, and Quinny even stops to take a photo of it, which I really like. Okay, let's watch a bit more.
She just gets stressed out sometimes. Yeah, she's kind of like on the spectrum.
Cute.
This moment really demonstrates how overwhelming it can be to be out and about as an autistic person, and just concentrating on a conversation can be really hard when we're in a loud or overwhelming environment, and those environments can be as simple as being on the bus. I think that this scene really closely represents what it can feel like, at least as close as you can represent on a screen. So let's watch some more moments of Quinny.
Look at me. Okay, we live in this bathroom now. Okay.
It's okay, I've got this.
I really love this scene with Quinny and Darren, as Quinny starts having a meltdown, or at least is getting overwhelmed, and Darren just comes in calmly and knows how to alleviate the situation. I really love how Darren just waits with Quinny and there isn't any rush or annoyance towards her. I love that Quinny is also given a chance to communicate when she's ready to leave the bathroom, and that Darren's just like, great, okay, let's go. I also think that it really shows nicely that some autistic people, if you are given the space and time to calm down and regroup, or taken away from the thing that's making you feel overwhelmed, you may be able to go back into that setting. I definitely personally relate to this. Sometimes the situation can be so overwhelming, but if I just step away for a second and then regroup, or wait a little while for it to maybe be a bit quieter, it may be easier for me to go back into that setting and do it again in the future. I also love the fact that Quinny is a character who has friends. They highlight the issues that she has with friends or people that she knows at school, understanding her being autistic, but Darren is very understanding and kind about it. At least in season 1, I haven't watched season 2 yet. And it just shows that autistic people can have healthy relationships and are not burdens or something to avoid. And I just think it's done so nicely, and I just love what Chloe brought to the character. And a final special mention to Tiny Tim for some bad disability representation. He is in A Christmas Carol, and it is the season at the moment as it's December as I am filming this. He's a character who's placed heavily on pity, gross, and encouraging people to give money, also gross. Once again, disabled people do not exist to be pitied or encourage you to be better. There's often this idea that you can't be struggling because there are disabled people in the world who have it worse than you. Yeah, no, we're just people, we're all struggling. We aren't your marker to say, oh my gosh, my life is so bad, but at least it isn't that bad because I'm not like them, that disabled lot. Just treat us like you would treat everybody else as normal humans. That's personally why I hate the TV program Children in Need, but that's a whole other video for another day. So there you have it. Me comparing the good, the bad, and the ugly of media representation of various different disabled people. Remember, don't get annoyed. This is just my opinion. I cannot and do not speak for every single disabled person on earth. If you are disabled, let me know what you think. Do you have any other recommendations for various different films, shows, or theatres to watch that has good disability representation? Please do let me know in the comments. I'm actually going to take a few weeks off for Christmas, so this will be the last video for 2024, and I'll be back towards the middle or end of January, depending on how I'm feeling. I hope that you all have a wonderful holiday break, however you celebrate. If you would like to support my work, you can do so via my Patreon in the description down below, and also if you want to get an Accessibility is Beautiful with free UK shipping, sizes small to 5XL, then there's a link in the description too. Have a fab few weeks. Happy New Year. Bye. It's a t-shirt, by the way, I forgot to say. It's an Accessibility is Beautiful t-shirt. Okay, right, I'm off now, bye.